Hey everybody, it's Carmela from Carmela's Rasslin Radio Relived. I'm here with my buddy Jeannie. How you doing, honey?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited. We have
Yes.
Bay's going to be here later, but we have a good guest tonight. We met him this weekend uh, when we were having our little event, and I'm excited to have him on. He
I met
is
him years ago when he wrestled, um, but we'll get into that. But yeah, yeah,
Okay. Well, I hope you got questions because
yes,
we're going to hear a lot of stories from him, I hope. All right,
yes.
ladies and gentlemen, we want to ask you to please welcome the I don't even know what to call him other than he's got a fierce name. He's the Hellhound from what I
Yes.
understand. CUJO. Hey CUJO, how are you?
What's up, Carmela and Jeannie? How you
Hi.
guys doing?
Nice
Good.
to
How are
see
you?
you.
Welcome, my peoples.
It's
Woof,
so good to
woof.
see you.
It's good to see you guys. How have
So
you been?
we've been good. We've been good since we saw you last.
Good.
Still working, but one of these days that'll stop. One of these days. Um, so let's talk about you. This show is going to be about you. So we want to
Okay.
know, how did you get involved in wrestling? What made you get involved in wrestling? Like I told you when I talked to you, we're all about stories. I'm not going to ask you a bunch of stupid questions. You tell us. It's going to be just like a nice little conversation, and you
Yeah.
tell us everything you want to tell us about you and how you got started.
I mean, it pretty much all started really. I was never a huge fan of WWF during the '80s. I never really liked all the kiddie stuff that they put out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime I watched wrestling, I discovered NWA. You know, when they started broadcasting up here Saturday mornings. You know what I mean? Getting up
Yeah.
early, watching wrestling on TV. I was always a fan of Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair. I mean, they were like my, you know, every week I would always watch. And then lo and behold, I heard Rasslin Radio on a Saturday morning one morning.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's
I would
nice.
get into work early. I would always get to work before anybody so I could put the radio on. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
I was in charge of the radio at that point. So I would put on the show and everybody would complain to me because they didn't want to hear it. You know, I was
Uh-oh.
the only one, me and my brother were the only wrestling fans and he didn't work on Saturday. So I was by myself. So that's how I started getting into the Joel Goodhart, the Rasslin Radio show. I mean, every Saturday I would listen religiously.
Oh.
So then, of course, I started hearing how he was putting shows together. Um, Probably my first show will be the TWA Spring Spectacular. They had a temple.
Okay.
I can't remember what year that was, of course, because I took a lot of chair shots.
Uh-oh.
But
Uh-oh.
I started hearing about the shows, and that's where I was introduced to independent wrestling. You know what I mean?
So
And then from
who
there, my
Okay,
love
go ahead.
of wrestling even became greater. You know what I mean? Because I saw these guys that were out there and they were really busting their ass and working hard. You know, not like on WWF. You know, you got these big dudes, and yeah, I know they're working hard too, but it just looks so cartoonish. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas you would go over to NWA and it'd be like Ric Flair, like a millionaire wrestler. You know what I mean? And then Dusty Rhodes, the the common man. You know what I mean? And that just kind of attracted me. The more realism of it. You know. Of
Yeah.
course, then I get into a gimmick where it's gimmicky, but I wasn't out there trying to like lick the kids' little heads. You know what I mean? Be like, ooh, you know. I just went out there and I was pretty much a hardcore wrestler. So, um, but anyway, I started listening to TWA, and then I started going to the to the shows over at Temple, and then all of a sudden the Bar Wars, and then all of a sudden, you know, anytime that I could go to a show, I would always go to a TWA show. I always see Joel Goodhart up there, and I'd be like, oh man, I wish I could do this. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
um, just as I was literally about to get the money together to go to his school, the Ringmasters, um, boom, he shut down. Made me cry. Made me cry. And he got $35 from me from that last show. But I'm
Uh,
not mad.
Did you go to another school though? How did you train?
Well, once Joe shut down, um, of course Todd took over. Todd is God took over, and they started running shows for ECW, Eastern Championship Wrestling. At that point, I actually approached Todd after a show that they had down on Columbus Boulevard or something like that. They had like at one of those clubs, and I said, "Hey, I'm really interested in getting in the business. Is there any kind of way we can work out something where I can get in the ring and blah blah blah?" And they were like, "No, we can't just let you in the ring. You have to train." Um, So I said, "Is there any kind of way? Do you know anybody at any schools?" And they were like, "Oh, there's a school over in Jersey, which was the Monster Factory. That was the
Right.
biggest school around here." Um, but it was just too far to drive for me because I always worked at night and all that jazz. So um, I waited, and then all of a sudden, one day I got because I think Todd had taken my information. Oh, no, no,
Hmm.
no. They put something on one of the shows. If you want to be a wrestler, boom, call
Wow.
and we'll set something up. And so sure enough, as soon as I saw that, I jumped on it. You know what I mean? I really didn't
Good.
have any money. Thank God my dad was a sweet person and he liked wrestling, but he wasn't a fan like I was. I was a hardcore fan. You
Right.
know, I would go to the shows and I would disappear into the crowd trying to get as close to the wrestlers as possible so I could see as close as possible. You know what I mean? So my dad lent me the money and I went and I did a tryout first off with Larry Winters, my mentor, and probably one of the nicest guys I ever met in my life. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yes.
I just want to tear up every time I talk about him because I just
I
really liked
know.
him so
Me too.
much. You know, he was such a good guy.
Great
So
guy.
I went in. And I'm not lying to you. You guys saw me the other day. I'm not 300 pounds anymore. I'm close to 200 now. And back then I was 300 pounds, and I took my first bump, my front bump, the one where you
Okay.
jump in the air. And for 300 pounds, Larry was like, "You move around really good for somebody that big." I was like, you know, what can I say? You know, I don't know. I never played any organized sports. Like I love playing sports in the streets of North Philly because I grew up in North Philadelphia, and we
Oh,
always
wait a
played
minute.
street
Wait a minute.
football.
Where at? Where at? I did too.
I grew up in a Hunting Park area.
Uh-uh.
Yeah, right
Get
by
out.
where Little
I
Flower High School used to be.
I went to Little Flower. Oh my God. I grew up in 11th and Ontario,
Yeah.
right down off of Rising Sun. I was 2 blocks east of Temple Hospital.
Well,
So
I went.
our
I grew up there till I was about 20 years old, and then I moved into Albany.
wow.
So
Wow, I had no idea that you were from there.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome. We're like compadres.
exactly.
Wasn't it great at the time though? Back then, back in the
Yeah.
day, it
Well,
was
I mean, it was a
beautiful.
little rough for me. You know, the neighborhood was getting rougher and rougher as
Yeah.
as the years went along, and that's why we ended up moving out because somebody tried to break into our house when we were kids.
Oh boy.
So my
Oh.
mom, my mom and dad were like, "Oh, let's get out of here," and so we ended up moving over to Albany.
Okay.
But um, I I just loved wrestling so much, and thank God my dad gave me the money. He lent it to me, but he passed away before I could pay it back to him. So, but he lent me the money, and I went in and I trained for 6 months in the back of the ECW arena
Wow.
in the freezing cold
Wow.
because they didn't have any heating in the back part. You know what I mean? I don't even know if they have heating in the front part because when you're out there and you're in the ring, you don't feel anything.
Yeah.
You just feel the electricity from everybody in the crowd. You know.
That's
Um,
crazy.
and I just remember like I would I would just work out for a few minutes and get warmed up so that way we can get moving. Um, I do believe I was their first student and the only one that lasted. So anybody else that I knew that went to school, kind of like there was one guy that kind of lasted for a few years, but he also retired. Uh, the guy that I was training with, the little guy, his name was Larry. He had all these tattoos all over his body. Super nice guy. He kind of like he was up from New York and he would drive down from New York to train
Oh
with
my
us.
God.
Wow.
So he trained, and we had our matches at the beginning, and then all of a sudden I kind of never saw him again after that. I wrestled for ECW for probably about 2 years. They actually called me Dino Sendoff.
Okay. I saw that today. I was
They were
looking at
mocking
the
me.
internet
They
and
were
I saw
mocking
that.
Dino Santa. Dino Santa, the promoter.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
We did a show over at Montgomery, like the Montgomery Mall or something like that, at
Right.
one of the farmers markets. And they never gave me a name because I never won a match at the beginning. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And they said, "Oh, you're gonna be Dino Sendoff," and then they they named my partner Joel Hartgood.
Joel Hartgood.
Yes,
Wow. Whose idea was that? Was that
that was
Todd's?
Paul Lee.
Paul Lee did that.
Yeah, at
Okay.
that point, Paul Lee had come in and had taken over for Eddie Gilbert. You know, my whole thing was only Paul Lee. Like I never got to meet Eddie Gilbert while he was there. You know, but he called me Dino Sendoff, and I wrestled as that for 2 years while I was at ECW. And in all honesty, I hated the name, but I got to know, a lot of the people in the area, like some of the kids that they would call me the King Dino Sendoff and all this jazz. Because they were like, "Oh, what's your name?" I'm like, "I'm the King." And then they started calling me the King Dino Sendoff. Meanwhile, a few years later, after I left ECW and I was working for Dino for many years,
Okay.
I said, "Dino, they used to call me Dino Sendoff in ECW." He's like, "Yeah, I know." I said, "It wasn't my idea though, right?" He laughed at me. He was like, "No, I know it. I knew it was a Paul Lee thing probably." And so we got a good giggle out of it. You know what I mean?
Well, it's nice that he was good about it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he knows how the business is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody knows people are going to try to rib each other either way.
Oh,
But
yeah.
like I said, I wrestled for ECW for 2 years. And then one day I was just like leaving the show and I ran into Todd. I was like, "Todd, I feel like I'm not really doing anything here. You guys, you're not giving me anything to grow with." They kind of just put me in squash matches against like the Eliminators, you know what I mean? The Bruise Brothers,
Oh, wow.
Taz.
Yeah.
Got thrown in my head a few times by Taz, all those guys. I did get to work with Mick Foley in a match with I think it was me and Chris Canyon before he became
Oh, wow.
famous.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was and Mick Foley and Mikey Whipwreck were their champions at ECW. So somehow, never wrestled before with them, but I got a tag team title match. So I got in there, I got kicked in the head by Cactus. And then like a few weeks later, I was like, I'm not really doing anything here with Dino Sendoff. So I saw Todd. I was like, "Todd, I'm going to like go out there and start putting my name out there and try to meet people.
Right.
He's like, "Dave, you got to do that. If you want to make it in this business, you got experience. You got to get experience. And the only way to do it is to go out there and do it." You know what I mean? So from there, I just kind of like ran into Stevie Richards on the Indies. I think I may have met him at ECW. Oh, yeah. I did work with him, actually. It's all starting to like blend together. But like I met Stevie Richards during when he first had come in. And he would ride with me because he didn't have a car.
Mm-hmm.
So I always had to go pick him up where he lived in Port Richmond with his family. And then we would go to shows. That way I kind of learned the ropes of how to get around. You know what I mean? I got to meet a lot more people here and there. He introduced me to a couple of guys from the Indies. And those were the guys that I ended up talking to when I went over to different shows. And I just used my name with Stevie and got in there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I went out on my own, Lo and behold, thank God for Larry Winters, who like I said, I have nothing bad to say about that man. He calls me up one day and he says, "Dave, remember that one day we were sitting on the ring apron and I asked you what kind of gimmick you would be doing?" And I always said, "Yeah, I always want to do like a moondog gimmick. You know what I mean? Like do something like that,
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
crazy and barking and all that jazz." So something had happened. He was doing a show, I think, for Hunter Q Robbins. Remember him?
Yeah.
I do not. I don't.
Well, he was he worked for ECW on the when Todd took over. So but he and Larry were really tight. And they were booking him in Connecticut and they wanted Larry and DC. DC couldn't make it for whatever reason. He was like, "You think you could get a chain and all this jazz?" I was like, "Hell yeah." So I went to the pet store and I bought a big dog collar and I went to Home Depot and bought like a 20-foot chain. Sorry if I'm
Wow.
too animate and I move around, but that's just how I am. But
All right.
so I got all the whole stuff. I didn't get like I ended up getting the ripped jeans and stuff later because I did this at the last minute because he told me about it like a week before. And he said, "What are you going to call yourself?" I was like, "I don't know." And, CUJO?
Hey, just came up with it like that?
Yeah, like, because I always remember the Stephen King
Yeah, the
CUJO.
movie. Yeah.
I said, that was a pretty scary movie, so let me try that. So when I did it, he's like, "Well, I don't want you to, I just kind of look like an average heavyweight dude, you know what I mean?" He said, "I want you to do a little bit of paint on your face like DC used to do and all that, and do the dog collar, you know what I mean?" And that's what I did. So I did a little
Did
bit of
you do
black
your own
paint.
makeup? Did you do all
Huh?
your own makeup? Your own makeup?
Yes, yeah.
Did you really? That's pretty good makeup. I was looking at it today.
Well, at the beginning, I would just basically do like a little bit around the eyes and maybe do like a bat little bit thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But as the years went along, I experimented with different colors, and I would do different designs just to be different, because
Yeah. Yeah.
if you do the same thing everybody else is doing, then what's the difference between you and anybody else, It
Exactly.
got me work and people liked it. People love the gimmick.
That's
So
really cool.
so then I did that show with him in Connecticut and CUJO was born. So I
Wow.
used to call myself El Diablo CUJO, which
Okay.
means the devil
Yeah.
CUJO.
Yeah.
I did that,
Wow.
and I just had a blast. I love working with Larry because Larry's just a smooth worker. You know what I mean? And Larry got me so much work because he trusted working with me. He trained me. He knew that I would go in there and work hard with him, but I wouldn't hurt him.
Yeah.
Right.
And he
Exactly.
and he always, like, if he could, he would like try to get me into any show he could. So I ended up getting a lot of work at the beginning because of him. So,
That's
like I said,
awesome.
he's a great man, and I can't wait to meet his son because I remember when we would go to the arena, the train. He lived in the Northeast Philly, so he would drive down through the area where I was at that point. I was in Olney-ish, kind of Olney-ish, that area around there,
Hmm.
and we would meet up at a certain point, and then we would drive down to the arena 2 to 3 days a week in the morning, and then I would go at nighttime and train again with JT Smith. So I did
Okay.
2 training sessions in a day, like 3 days a week for like 6 months.
Wow.
So Larry would always talk about his kids because his kids were born right around that time, and he would talk about how he cares so much about them, how much he loved them, and
Oh
one of
yeah.
them was sick, and I was like, he's
Yeah.
gonna be okay. Kids get sick, and you
Yeah.
know, he always say my little guy, my little guy. It's like
Oh. Yeah.
he's
He
just
was.
such a
He
good,
was. He was unbelievable. I mean, he. I have a picture that I put up here once in a while of him at my house
yeah,
holding my oldest daughter 40 years ago. And his sister Annie used to babysit for my daughter before we met Jeannie.
yeah,
And I'm trying. I know Joel said that he was going to get Colin to be there for the 10 bell salute, but I'm trying to get hopefully Colin and Annie will do trying to do a tribute show to Larry, and I
yeah,
want to get as many people as I can to participate because he deserves it. He was a wonderful guy in all ways. He was
yeah.
kind, he was sweet, and I was telling Jeannie not too long ago that he used to come over to my house like all the time. And before he'd come over, he's like, "You making anything good for dinner?" And I'm like, "Just come over." And he's like, "What do you make it?" He always say stuff like that. And he was famous for his $100 bill scheme thing. That
Yeah,
he
yeah.
couldn't contribute, he couldn't chip in because that's all he had was $100 bill. And it was funny
And he
because
loved he loved to eat too.
he
Yeah.
did, as long as he didn't
Uh,
have to pay for it, he did love
he
to
always
eat.
wanted to talk about food, and I'm like,
Yes,
it's
he
too
did.
early to eat and then go get thrown around in the ring. You know what I mean?
But you'd never know it to look at him. You never
No,
know it to look at him. That he could eat, he could put it away. He really
yeah.
could.
And he didn't
And
want to spend the money though.
no, no, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. As long as that's why he would ask me, "What are you cooking every night?" Or every
he was.
time he came over. And it's funny because we were with Dominic DeNucci a lot back in the day. I was really close with Dominic DeNucci until a couple years ago when he passed away.
Yeah,
And it's funny because like Larry would, he looked up to Dominic like so much, and we'd be out to eat or over my house or whatever, and Larry would like when Dominic was there, he would sit nice and he'd talk nice, and and then when Dominic wasn't in the room anymore, then he'd be like, hey, Carmela. Give me some extra food, or hey, Carmela, what else you got in there? Or hey, Carmela, I can't contribute to tonight's meal. I only have $100,
It
But
was all
he was,
it was all about his belly. He wanted to fill
oh,
it.
his belly and his money.
Yeah, yeah.
That was the two things that he can. Right, Jeannie?
The money
Yeah.
thing is an old school wrestler thing, like save your
Oh
money,
yeah.
save your money, save your money. So I get why he did that. I wish I did
He,
that.
he was a little cheap. He was a little cheap, yeah.
Right.
But he did. He wound up saving some decent money. He really
Yeah.
did. God
Yeah,
bless
he
him.
was cheap except for like his kids.
Yeah.
Like his
Right.
twin boys, they were into hockey and they he would drive them to practice and getting new equipment and
Yeah.
having to get the skates whatever they do.
Well,
Yeah.
when Mike Bruno started the TWA up again,
Yeah.
I hadn't seen him probably in about a little over 10 years, and all of a sudden I see him. I'm like, hey, how are the kids? How are the boys doing? Blah, blah, blah. He's like, they're great, but man, they got me running everywhere for this, for that, for the hockey, for the, all the sports and stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's what happens when you're a dad,
Yeah.
But he's just such a good guy,
Yeah.
One of my favorites of all time in this business. They always say you don't know who to trust. I trusted him, you know what I mean?
He was a
And
very
I noticed
good
like
guy.
a lot. There were like certain people, like JT was a great person as well. He trained me. When I first told him, because I kind of like ran into him at the Cheltenham Square Mall, because he was his full-time gig was working as a manager at the theater. So I went in to see a movie, and I was like, JT Smith, what are you doing here? And then we just started talking. I was like, yeah, I was talking about getting in the business, and he was like, so we talked back and forth. And then when I finally saw him, I was like, I'm getting in. He's like, yeah, I'm going to be the guy training you. I was like, cool.
That's nice. Very nice.
Now, the only bad thing about that was, that was when ECW was starting to get hot, so he was working his ass off trying to get, noticed as well, because they were bringing all these guys down from New York. You know what I mean? So he would do crazy stuff. And the one day he was doing something and blew out his knee. And it was probably like the last month of my training.
Oh, wow.
So they had to bring in the Rockin' Rebel.
Oh, God.
Ew.
Yeah.
Now, we all know the story of the Rockin' Rebel.
Yeah.
God rest his soul. God rest his soul.
No. Damn him to hell. Fuck him.
Yeah.
He was evil.
Wow.
I don't care. No.
Well, he was.
He's burning in hell, which is where he belongs.
In layman's terms, he was a douchebag.
Yeah, he was. He was.
That's being kind to douchebags.
He did treat me well. He finished up our training. And I think he was the one who helped me set up my first match. So
okay.
I had that, and then they brought in Francine.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And she just came in and learned to take some bumps. And of course, Chuck, he was like happy to see a girl in there because then he could hit on her. So
oh my God.
So I remember Powell driving her a few times and at the school. And then and I would drive with her to our shows at the beginning.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden she started making a name for herself because ECW started pushing her, working with Shane and the Pitbulls and all that. And then it's like I saw her at a show for Bay and LAW, Liberty All-Star, and she kind of blew me off. I said, how dare she?
Yeah.
Anyway, to get past that point, I'm going to go back to the school because I want you to know what training at the ECW arena was.
Go.
The first few months, they didn't even have a ring. They had a old boxing ring that didn't have padding on half of it.
Oh, my God.
And I just remember taking those first few bumps. My head was pounding the next day or two.
Oh, I bet it was. Oh, my God.
And then the ropes didn't have, it was basically a cable with a thin piece of plastic on it. So we're hitting those ropes and bumping in this ring that's half padded. And I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? You know? And I kept thinking to myself, am I going to make it? You know, I can't keep bumping in these ring like this, you know?
Yeah.
Half of
Yeah.
it didn't have a padding. So when I had, like, we were working matches in the ring while getting trained, they would bail me out into the middle of the ring and I would hit the wood. I'd be like, what the hell's going on? I paid $2,300 or whatever the hell it was for this, you know?
Yeah.
$2,500, I think it was. Excuse me. I'm going to take a sip.
Go ahead. Take your time.
So
do whatever you need to do.
So then I, you know, finally, after like a month or two, they had bought a ring. I think it was an old WWE ring or WWF ring. And at that point, I was like, man, this is like a nice little cushion ring here. You know, that bump was 10 times easier. So I was already used to the hard bumps.
Yeah, exactly.
And so then, you know, we finished our training, had my first match. I never even made it into the ring for my first match. I started to climb in the ring, and one of the Bruise Brothers booted me right in the face. Boom. And I fell out of the ring. And I was on the ground.
Oh, my God.
While I was on the ground, they threw Joel Hartwood in the ring.
Oh, my God.
They beat the hell out of him for like 3 minutes. And then they came out after they won the match. They came out, and they beat me up all the way into the back.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
Was that the way it was supposed to go?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, I thought I would at least made it into the ring. They're like, because we didn't talk about it. They were like, just listen to us when we're out there, and we'll take care of you. You know what I mean? Oh, thanks for that boot to the face, because that was really taking care of me.
Yeah, it was. He really took care of you, knocked you right on the floor. Well,
Joel Hartwood had taken regular bumps in the ring. I'm taking a boot to the face and hitting the guardrail. It's like, and then they kept throwing me into the guardrail. I'm like, what, do I owe you money? I don't understand.
Well, you know, it's funny what you're saying, because we say this all the time about how people like you and the old school wrestlers had to learn while they were in the ring.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Today in the WWE now, you know, everything is rehearsed. Everything is make sure you don't do this, make sure that. And if there's a mistake that they make during a match, like they'll even announce it, like on their press conference or whatever. Oh, well, you know, that was a mistake. You can't have really good wrestling talking about it like that.
Exactly.
Like back in the day, everybody learned wrestling while they were in the ring, getting their butts handed to them. And I'm glad that you're saying this, because it helps the fans realize that real wrestlers, you know, got hurt for real.
Yeah.
And you know, real wrestlers learned as they went along. It wasn't something that a lot of times, like we heard with other wrestlers, they didn't even know the ending. Right. You know, until it was absolutely right there, you know. So go ahead, finish. I just wanted to say that.
I've had a few matches where the promoter would be like, we'll let you know when you're in the ring who's going over.
Right.
And then they would tell the ref somehow during the match, and then at the end of the match is when they told us, you know. But my whole thing is with today's wrestling is that everybody they want to know every spot. They want everything 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Exactly.
And then 3 gets messed up, and they don't know how to get back to where they were at.
Perfect. You know? That's true.
Yeah.
They don't know how to jump to 4 and 5 if 3 gets messed up. And that's the thing.
They look confused. You know?
Exactly. And that's the problem. You can see it when they wrestle. You can see that if they screw something up, it's like, oh no, like almost the look on their face is like, now what do I do? You know, how do you pick up? How do you go on? But you know, when you guys were wrestling and the Dominic DeNucci's and the Bruno Sammartinos and the, I'm going way back, the Harley Races and you know, I mean, the Spiros Arions, you found all that stuff out, like you said, either on your way into the ring or in the ring, or, you know, you just got your butt handed to you and didn't even know why, you know. But
the thing is, back in the day, like sometimes if you were doing a double shot on the weekends, you might get to the show almost right before your match, you know. If you don't know what you're doing in the ring, you know, what are you going to do when you have to go out there and you haven't talked your spots over?
Exactly.
All I need to know is how we're starting and how we're finishing.
See?
The rest I can work out in the middle of the ring, you know?
And you know, that's funny, because like, it's like so interesting to me, okay? Because like you said, you only need to know the beginning and the very end, but you work it out in the ring. Well, what do you do if you have an idea and your partner or your person you're going against has a different idea? You have to work it out like at the last minute, or do you
Right.
talk to each other, or like, it's crazy because if there isn't a script like there is now,
Yeah.
back then it was like, okay, let's just, I don't know, let's just do this or do that. Like a lot of times, um what's his name, Jeannie told us that Manny Fernandez, I'm pretty sure it was, that they went against Rock and Roll Express, remember? And he
Oh yeah.
basically had him down, and he would whisper in his ear, just go to sleep, lay here for a while, and then he'd tell him when to get up. But everything was right in the ring.
Yeah.
Today, if a wrestler talks to another wrestler, you can literally see it. It's like kind of like this.
Yeah.
Years ago, you couldn't see that. I don't know how you guys did it. I really don't. I have to give you props. I have to commend you for that.
I mean, it's an art. It is an art. So, you
Most
just learn to
definitely.
do it. Thank God at the beginning when I first started, I had long hair. So a lot of it covered my face up. So when I would call spots, people wouldn't even know,
Right.
Yeah.
But as soon as I started shaving my head, of course,
Then it all comes out.
I had to be a little more careful. I had to put my head down. I would
Yeah.
have to pull the guy closer.
Yeah.
And I would always tell whoever I'm working with, I would be like, what do you want to do? What kind of stuff do you like to do so that way we can figure, I can figure it out. I don't
Right.
like to call everything in the back, So I would work with somebody if they weren't less experienced. I say, what do you like to do? If I knew how to do it and I could work it with them, I'd be like, okay. I said, all right, I'll call the spot in the ring, So we'll be working. And when the guy's doing his comeback, I'll be like, well, do your spot where you're going to do your head scissors or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then we'll
right.
do that. And then I might even be calling spots as I'm throwing punches at the guy. That's how I always did it, and it always seemed to work best for me that way. That way, if you see me and I'm always screaming and I'm always making noise, so people don't know if I'm talking to my opponent or if I'm
Right.
just making face gestures. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or yelling at him.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. So, where did the Hellhound come from? That just went along with Cujo, or did somebody mention that, or somebody suggested to you?
Actually, I was gonna work for this guy in Jersey. His name was Lucifer, and
Okay.
he was running these shows. I don't know why. I don't know why some of these companies will call themselves what they did. It was called New Jack City Wrestling.
Okay. Okay.
You've
I
heard of it,
remember
right?
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
I
guy
knew New
loved me
Jack.
for whatever reason, and he had booked me because we had worked on a show together, and he saw me. He was like, "I like your gimmick, man. It's real cool, man." Meanwhile, this guy was like 300 pounds and like 6'3", and with
Yeah.
the softest voice you would ever hear. Even if he was like screaming into the crowd, I'd be like, "He ain't nothing, man. He ain't nothing." I'm like, "You do not sound threatening right now, bro. Just don't say nothing." Anyway, so he booked me for the show, and he called me the one day. He's trying to get the poster together and all this jazz, and he was like, "So I'm gonna put you in the poster, man. What do you want me to call you?" I said, "Well, I usually go by El Diablo Cujo, which means the devil." He's like, "You know what, man? I like that, but what do you think about Cujo the Hellhound?"
Oh wow. That's
And I,
cool.
and I was like, "I like that." And then the Hellhound was born.
Isn't that
Wow.
So
crazy?
every
That's
time I used to
cool.
do a picture, I would do Cujo a certain way, and then in the bottom, I would just in bold print, the Hellhound. You
So
know what I
now,
mean?
when Cujo got even more angry, is that when the Hellhound came out? I mean, did you have two different like gimmicks with that?
No, I just Cujo was just like a crazy, mad. You know what I mean? I was angry. I was like a lot of times they would just never put me with anybody like a name because I think they were afraid I would hurt them. Because I would go out
Okay.
there and I would swing my chain. If I saw
Wow.
the fans, I'd swing the chain at them.
Oh my
Yeah.
They
God.
were like
I
they would
remember
like
that.
always
Yep.
go back and get scared. And then sometimes like I would feel bad and I see the kids afterwards and they didn't know who I was because without the
Right.
paint, I put a hat on. They didn't know who I was. And I wanted
Right.
to be like, it's cool. It's just, but I didn't, I just kind of let it go. But the fans loved it. like I said, the promoters loved it. So it wasn't until I got older and was in the business for many years before I even got to work with anybody with a name. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like I ended up working with Nikolai Volkov near his end years before he retired.
I loved him. Loved that man.
He was such a nice guy. And he was in shape up until he finally did retire. Like we were in the back before the show, and he's doing these weird push-ups where it's like you put your hands near your chest and you kind of like do like it's almost like a yoga pose.
Yeah.
And this guy is like in his late 60s, 70s, So I wrestled him, and he's just so nice. I'm like, all right, so whenever you get a chance, he didn't really have any opinions of what to do in the ring and all that jazz. So I kind of like told him what I would like to do, so that way he has an idea if I call it.
Mm-hmm.
I said, so if at any point you see me going near the top, just cut me off and throw me. Oh, you don't have to do that, man. You don't have to. You don't. It's not a big. I'm like, just do it. I'll be fine. Don't worry about it. So I went out, and after the match, I got back to the back, and I saw the booker, and I was like, so what'd you think of that match? And he looked at me, he was like, CUJO, I have never seen Nikolai Volkov look that good in years.
Wow.
And I
That's
took that
good.
as such a compliment because I
Absolutely.
really, I really went out there and I did my best with him. He was bumping and stuff for me too. So,
Wow.
and
talk about a nice
of
man.
course I had to put him over because he's a name, but it was just an honor to work with somebody of that caliber. You know what I mean?
Did you ever hear him sing?
Yeah, of course. He'd always be in the back singing.
Oh my God. Of course I called him Joe, but he was at my house with Dominic DeNucci, multiple times years ago. And the song Cara Mia, that old, oh my God, could he sing that song? I mean, over the years, like I've always had wrestlers in my house. I've been involved in wrestling and I've never not been involved. It's been like forever. And he would come in and Dominic would joke and say, he no can sing. Get out of here. And I would be like, come on, Joe, sing, please. And he's like, and Dominic says, shut up. And he no can sing. And then I admit he belted out Cara Mia for me. I got to tell you, honestly, I had tears in my eyes. It was unbelievable. God
he
bless
had
him.
like an opera kind of voice, Like
yes,
that.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He was wonderful, wonderful man. But that's nice to hear that you went up against him. He's
Needless
great.
to say, once the match was over, I went over and I shook his hand. I gave him a hug. I was like, "Thank you so much." He said, "No, thank you, CUJO."
Oh,
He's just such a good guy, such a good guy. And every time I saw him, he always sweet, shook your hand. You know what I mean? Very respectful. And meanwhile, I'm just a jabron that's just starting in the business. I mean, at that point, I've been in for at least 10 years or more. But
then you weren't a jabroni. Stop it.
Yeah.
No, don't shoot
for
yourself
a guy
down.
like him who's been around for as long as he was, you know what I mean? And he wrestled everybody. So who am I, But
he did.
I really enjoyed working with him,
Who was the most, I don't want to say famous, but guy that you worked with? Was it Nikolai or was it, I know you mentioned Cactus.
Nikolai, Cactus.
Popular at the time.
I mean, Taz, those guys are like, from that era. When I first started, I mean, ECW was just starting out too, but a lot of those guys ended up making it big names of themselves. But Cactus was already a name, because Joe Goodhart would bring him in to do those bar wars, And I tell you what, that's what really hooked me. You know what I mean? The TWA guys, Hot Body, Stetson, DC, Larry, like those guys are what inspired me to be getting in the business. It wasn't really like because WWE or WWF was my You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Those are the guys that really made me feel a certain way about the business. I want to do that what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, so that was like business, and unfortunately, I never got to work with like any of those guys. I mean, I did get to work with Tony when at the second. The Phoenix Rising of TWA when Mike opened it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I worked with like Meanie. I worked with we did battle royals and stuff. So I did that with them. Most of the time I just usually worked a lot of the indie guys, but I think they just kind of wanted somebody that they could trust with some of the newer guys too,
Right.
because a lot of them like were so green out there.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to
Yeah.
do flip flop, this, that, and the other. It's like you can't tell a story when you're doing all that.
No. And you're right. It's all about stories.
Yeah.
And
And
even
JT always said to
today,
me, you're going out there, you're trying to pull emotion out of everybody.
exactly. It's perfect. Yep. And it's funny because
every
even
time I
today,
work, I'm sorry.
they don't tell the right stories. They don't tell
No.
stories like they should. It's
Right.
always repeat, like you said. It's repeat. It's this guy fighting this guy this time, this time, this
Yeah.
time, 5 times, 6 times. But there's no story.
Right.
It's like, well, I beat you 3 times. You beat me twice. So we're going to go one more time. And it's ridiculous. But back then, you're right. When you pull emotion out of somebody in the audience, that's what's most important.
And you have to listen. A lot of the guys, they're worried about getting their spots in, and they think that quick pop is something special, but you're not getting emotion. You're just getting the shock value out of it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You're not getting. It has nothing to do with what's going on in the ring because all you're doing is spots. But if you slow it down and you listen to the crowd, that's what JT and Larry always says. Like, listen to the crowd. They'll tell you what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong.
I believe in that 100%.
Yeah.
There was somebody that we had on the show who said that he was the puppet master and the audience was the puppets. Remember, Jeannie?
Yeah,
remember
I think that was Manny. I think that was that same story.
Yeah. I don't technically agree with that. I do believe that the sound of the audience and the mannerisms, the emotion of the audience tells you what they really want to say, what they want to hear. And it's funny going back to Manny again, and I absolutely love Manny. And he said to us, he was one of the only guys who said, I did not live for wrestling. Wrestling was a living. And that's important because a lot of guys and girls who live for wrestling, when wrestling isn't there anymore, they can't do it anymore. Their lives are over, and that's not true. It shouldn't be true. I mean, do you wrestle at all anymore now?
Honestly, I retired probably about 7 years ago. I've always been in the restaurant industry, and after a few years, I had gotten more into the waitering part because the managing part was too demanding.
Mm-hmm.
I was tired of people calling me in the middle of the night or calling me early in the morning, telling me that they're sick and they can't. I'm like, I don't want to know that. I want to make enough money to live my life, pay my bills, save some money,
right,
and not have to worry about somebody else's business,
Yeah.
As a server or as a waiter, you are the boss of your own business because your tables is your business.
Your business, yeah.
Right.
You talk to them. You it's like the wrestling business. You talk to them. You make them feel good. You give them what they want. Make family out of them, and they'll come back and they'll give you more. They'll come back and they always take care of you when they come back. Like I'll have regulars that'll come in every week just because I was their server. So, but
can we ask where you work so people maybe can come see you? Is that allowed?
I'd rather keep it private.
Okay, no problem. That's fine.
I'm very private. If you ever see my Facebook, I don't like talking about myself that much.
Okay.
You'll see a lot of CUJO pictures. That's it.
No problem. I appreciate your stories though. And like I said, this podcast was generated on old school, on stories, on the fact that, like we have so many memories. I mean, all of us have so many memories of what it was like years ago.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to be talking to Tom Brandy again soon. We want to have him back too, because when he was on the show, and Jeannie can tell you, he was just rolling for the whole hour.
Yeah.
He was just going. And then when
we
he got done,
keep him longer.
Yeah, and when he got done, I said to him, "You're going to come back?" He goes, "Oh, baby, we just hit the top of the iceberg." And he's right. There's so many things to tell. And again, this is why we do this, because first of all, I love it. Jeannie loves it. But we do it so that the people will understand. The people who listen to our show have commented over and over again that they like the stories. It's based on stories, and it's not like the regular questions that other podcasts ask,
Now, CUJO, did you ever think about going into training yourself, like you as the trainer? to teach these young guys the proper way to do it?
That's a good question.
I did help train a few times when I was, whenever I knew somebody had a ring, or if I knew, like if I took an interest in their person, I'd be like, I would try to help them. So I would go
Right.
and work out with them and stuff like that. I am going to offer some of my training services when May 3rd, of course. If that, as long as I stay healthy until then, I will be bumping somewhere. So I'm going to be helping somebody train.
Ooh,
Good.
I'll
I'm
be helping people
excited.
train as I train myself,
Gotcha.
Just
Good
because,
for you. I think
Because I think
I
you would
really
be
do
great.
miss
You
it,
learn. I
and
mean,
I
you
really
learn
do.
from.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say because you learn from the best. I think you would be an amazing trainer.
I
Thank
agree.
you so much.
Yeah, I agree.
I really do love the business. Like, it's still my passion. Like, I never really wanted to go on and try to do it full time. I always had a full-time job, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And in all honesty, I hate going on long distance drives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I hate
Yeah.
being stuck in a car for more than 2 hours, And I remember one time I was doing a show for, I think it was Dino Sandoff or Dino Santa. I mean, Triple WA, we were doing a show in Indiana, PA, which is
Okay.
near Pittsburgh. We were in a car for 6 hours.
Yeah.
And the only way to travel when you do that is to get a bunch of people in a car so you can like split up the gas money, the food, and all that jazz. You know what I mean? So it was me, Glenn, this gentleman named Blue Thunder, Carl. He was driving, and I think John Rock. Remember John Rock?
Yes.
Old TWA?
Yes.
So it was like a 6-hour ride, man. Getting out of the car, it took me like 5 minutes just to straighten up,
Yeah.
And then you got to go wrestle.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
Well,
I mean, I did that for a long time, and it's like, I don't see myself driving from one town to the next and then, working a full-time job on top of it, During the
that's
beginning of
hard.
during my first run, like when I first started, I would wrestle every weekend and still work a regular job, So I was always exhausted, but you had to pay your dues, and that's paying your dues,
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I've said this before on the show. Like when I was younger, and not that long ago, even like I would go out a lot of times with the wrestlers and my friends and whatever. But when I was younger, I mean, we used to go Friday night. We would leave work and hop right in a car and go and just go. And we would party with the wrestlers, go back town to
Right.
town, party all weekend, come home Monday morning at like 5 a.m., take a shower, and right back to work. I got very little sleep. Now, if I did that, first of all, I wouldn't make it. But if I ever did that, I wouldn't make it to work. And there's no way. There's just no way.
Need a week's vacation.
Oh,
to
yeah. God, doing
recuperate.
that?
Yeah.
But
in those last few years when I was working, I was now mind you, I'm going to tell you a secret. I'm 55 years old now.
Oh, God bless you. You don't look it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. But like those last few years that I was wrestling, I would work 2 shows a month, maybe. It would take me 2 weeks to recover from one show,
I believe it.
Because I wasn't a guy that I wouldn't go out there and I would bump,
Yeah.
I would take superplexes. I would, and it just took me too long to recover. And I was like, I think it's time to take the boots off and just hang up the tights,
Yeah.
But I mean, if it wasn't for Joel Goodhart and TWA, I don't even know if I would be in the business, because they really motivated me to get in.
Good.
And I was so sad when he shut down TWA because I never got to work for him. So,
well,
but I have no regrets in any of it because I loved what I did and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed working with a lot of guys. Twice in my career did I lose my temper and maybe swing a chair harder than I should have. But they deserved it,
Only
one
twice?
guy was extra green and he messed up probably like day one moves twice, and it just fired me up so much I threw the guy out of the ring.
Wow. But was
and
it only twice or was it
who I
more
was
than
tagging
twice?
with at the time, who was just outside the ring at that point, he wasn't in the match. It was just like, my support group. I said, light him up for me. and he took it easy on him. So I threw the guy back in the ring, and I grabbed the chair, and I literally whacked him like 8 or 9 times.
Wow.
As hard as I
Nice.
possibly could, because that's the only way he's going to understand. If you
Now
don't know what
he'll
you're
never
doing-
forget the mistake either.
Yeah. He didn't
And
break
know
my
not to
nose,
make it
but
again.
he did a move, and he bloodied up my nose because he messed up a move. It's like, dude,
Wow.
you know?
Is he
Yeah.
still wrestling?
I never saw him after that day. The last thing I ever heard,
Maybe
the
you
last
ended his
thing I
career.
ever heard from him was
Wow.
after he had come to the back, he was crying to the other
Oh.
wrestlers that
Wow.
literally tears crying. I don't know why CUJO did that. What did I? And they all
Oh.
started laughing at him. They're like, "Yeah, you messed up, bro. He's
Dude's
just
in the
trying to
wrong
teach
business. Yep.
you know." And I'm such an overly soft-hearted guy. If I ever do something and I hurt anybody, I always go and apologize. I've never hurt anybody in all my years of wrestling at all. You know, I've never dropped anybody. I've broken bones of my own fault. You know.
Right. Right.
And I also had a match with a guy, a Spanish guy, and he just kept whacking me with his chair, but with like the rivet side of the chair.
Right.
Those plastic chairs with the rivets on the back.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, man, I got so angry after the third time that I finally got the chair off of him, and I turned the chair to the rivet side, and I swung it so hard that the back of the chair flew into the crowd.
Wow.
And then I started beating him all the way into the back. Like I'm probably as stiff as I've ever been. I threw a table on top of him, and I was literally going to jump on the table
Oh
on
my
top of his
God.
head. And all of a sudden, all these dudes from the back come running and throw me up against the wall. They're like, "CUJO, what's the matter? What are you doing? What are you doing?" I was like, "Get that motherfucker! Excuse my language. Get that MFer out of here." You know what I mean? And then we get to the back, and the guy's like talking crap. I'm like, "Dude, if you don't know how to work, then just say you don't know how to work. We'll work around you not working." You know what I mean?
Right.
But don't come back here swinging these chairs at me like that. You know what I mean? I got to go to work tomorrow, and I don't need any cuts on my face.
Exactly.
Right.
Wow. That sounds like mentioning Rock and Rebel to Jeannie, man. She came out with that F word like you would not believe. First time in 34 episodes. She
Not a
never
fan of
said.
not a fan of murderers. Plus, he was also
He was just a jackass
evil.
altogether.
He really was, and you know, me and him got in. Well, I'm not even gonna, but like, yeah.
He had no
He was
respect
just
for
a mean,
anybody.
horrible human being. I feel bad for his kids, but you know.
Yeah. Well, he
That's
and
it.
I had some interaction. I never really had any long-term interaction with him to know what kind of a person he was. But I heard from a lot of people that he was not very nice.
No.
And I just wanted to get back to driving in the car with you for a minute. I used to go everywhere with the wrestlers. Either my parents and I would go, my ex-husband and I would go. I mean, it would be all over the place. But one time we drove to Atlanta, Georgia, 15 hours with Andre the Giant. And you want to talk about a long ride with a big man? Holy moly. Me and him were in the back seat. And I was like, and it was funny because it was just me and him. I was younger, smaller,
Yeah.
but he still took up over half the back seat.
I bet.
And and it's like, and it's funny because wrestlers in general like to control everything. Because I remember even Dominic would be like, no, we're not doing that. We're doing this. Like, you can have everything set up. No. And every time we wanted to stop, Andre would be, no stopping. No, keep going. I'm like, excuse me, I got to go to the bathroom. We're stopping. No, they're stopping. But it's like weird how they get when they travel.
Yeah.
It's like, but it's really, really nice listening to what you did and what you learned, and other than Larry Winters, and I think you said JT Smith, was there anybody else that you learned a lot from?
I mean, I learned a lot over the years from a lot of guys. Those were the guys that really had the most influence on me because I did train physically with them. You know what I mean?
Right.
But a lot of the guys that I ended up working with were like either my skill level or below my skill level. So
Okay.
those guys never taught me anything. I only learned when I worked with Larry and I worked with Larry a lot, because we did a lot of shows together. He, he just trusted me, so he always wanted to work with me. So a lot of times, if I was on a show and he was on a show, we were working together.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's
And
nice.
JT, like, he was a great guy, but he hurt himself. He hurt his knee, and then he had to disappear, so I never really got to work with him that much. I think I worked one show, and it was for the Variety Club on a hot-ass summer day, 300 pounds, sweating it up. It was
Oh
awful.
my God.
It was awful. It was a good match, but it was an awful, awful day to be outside.
Awful hot. Yeah, my
Yeah,
God.
it was like in one of those airplane hangars or something. So it was like, and the kids and it was just, it was just awful.
There's not even a breeze in a day like that. Not even a little air. No, I hate that
and
stuff.
It was so humid, but like he was so gracious. He like, if I messed something up, he wouldn't even get mad. Most guys, they'll like potato you if you like mess the spot up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was a good guy, and he treated me well. So I always try to be the same way with, like, whenever I work with new people. You know what I mean? That's why I always say, what can you do? And let me know if you can. The guy that I had to put the chair to didn't tell me, oh, I can't do a power slam. What? I'm doing all the work. You just have to jump in the air.
Yeah,
in the right direction.
Yeah.
He came at me in the wrong direction. So I'm sorry. You guys can't see me, but I just threw him down so hard in front of me, and I just gave him a couple stiff boots. But then I called the same spot, and he did it again.
Oh, wow.
That's when I threw him out, and I had to light him up,
Yeah.
Crazy.
And I did feel bad about it, but I didn't. I you got to learn. And I know if he never came back into the ring, it was probably because of me. But maybe you shouldn't be in the ring. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what Jeannie said. He's probably in the wrong line of business.
Yeah.
Did you ever have an incident where somebody reprimanded you or got mad at you for something you did wrong?
Not particularly. I mean, I was a decent listener. You know what I mean? I never worked stiff. I only work stiff if somebody works stiff with me. And if somebody hit me and they hit me hard, I will work the same way. Now, if they were trying to take advantage of me, then I will fight back. You have to let them know that you're not just going to stand there and take it, But,
right, exactly.
Most veterans, if they ever saw me working or whatever, they'd be like, oh, they'll pull you aside after your match and they'll talk to you.
Right.
I didn't have a lot of interactions like that because working on the indies, you might get one big name and then they're working with like whoever's the senior person there. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
A lot of times on the indies, they don't really watch the matches that much. So I don't know.
Now I have a question. Now, when Mike Bruno Tartaglia brought back the TWA, I remember seeing you on those cards. How was it like working for the boss?
I mean, I liked Mike a lot. Like, he was cool with me. You know what I mean? I kind of walked in off the street with my gear, and I was like, "Hi, I'm CUJO the Hellhound. If you need any extra guys," and I just happened. I think it may have been that first show that they had at the skate zone. Yeah. I think that was the first show that they had, and I got at least a 2-year run out of them. I worked a lot of shows with them, and I had a lot of fun. But he always treated me well, and he paid better than most independent promoters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he was good to me. I know he seems like kind of a wise ass, and he is, but that's his personality.
Who, him? A wise ass?
He always treated me well. So what am I gonna say?
Yeah. No, he treated a lot.
He likes to bust balls, though. He does like to bust
balls.
Oh
my God! Yes.
I had this. I'm not gonna tell that story.
Why?
Because he still busts my balls about this. Like, this one lady.
Trust me, he is not going to listen to my podcast. Trust me,
I'm not worried about him listening. I'm worried about her listening.
Who's her?
Oh, I know.
The lady that would always start calling me and texting me and all this jazz, like through Messenger. And he as a matter of fact, when I saw him on Saturday, he was like, "Oh, how's blah blah blah? Is she are you gonna see her when I'm like, dude?
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay,
See,
I'm
I know
lost.
exactly.
Was this a girlfriend of his or yours?
No,
just like
no.
a fan. You might even know her from the shows because I think she
Okay.
used to be a TWA-er.
Do
Yeah.
I know her, Jeannie?
I doubt it.
Okay.
I think you do,
I don't know.
but
You
I don't want to
might.
mention her name right now. So
No,
Yeah,
no, you don't
yeah,
have to
no,
mention her
no,
name.
I
Jeannie will
wouldn't.
tell me after the show.
Yeah.
all right. But no,
Yeah.
I mean, Mike always treated me well, and I actually loved working for ECWA. Like that was, I worked on a lot of shows where people just didn't know what they were doing. You know what I mean? You walk in and you're waiting and waiting, and then 15 minutes before the show starts, you're first on the show and you're finding out you're working. That's why if you don't know how to work, how are you going to go out there and talk a 15-minute match, and they just literally gave you 10 minutes, to
Yeah.
figure it all out.
Exactly.
So I always said to people, if I walk into if I'm walking into a show late, because something happened, a traffic accident or something, I
Yeah.
can put on my gear and literally be like, this is the finish, and go out there and work,
See, that's
'Cause-
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah,
As long
that's
as the
awesome
fans
to
are
hear.
reacting and I feel them and I feel their energy and they're reacting to what I'm doing, I'm
Yep.
just going to go with the flow with that,
See, this is
And
why
I've
the
I've
WWE.
worked with guys that they'll be like, I'll be like, what do you guys want? What do you want to do tonight? He's like, I don't know, man. Let's call him the ring. I'm like, okay. And then they'll be like, you call him the ring. They'll say it to me. I'm like, okay. Because
Well, it's funny. That's like the WWE guys. That's why they have to be there so early before the show.
yeah.
And when they have a pay-per-view, okay, they have to be in the town that they're in for the whole entire week or weekend, depending on what it is. And it's funny because I'm going to tell you a little story now about when Hulk Hogan fought Andre the Giant at WrestleMania. Okay, Andre the Giant got the largest payday at the time that he had ever gotten in his life. Okay, he made over $300,000 just to drop to Hogan.
Right.
And Hogan was scared to death of Andre. And Hogan would have these things like written down, and he'd go up to Andre and be like, "Hey, boss, how about if we do this, and how about if we do that?" And Andre like, whatever, whatever. And Hogan had like front to back, I think he said like 10 pages of stuff to go through the entire match, and he'd tell it to Andre, and Andre, whatever. Andre wouldn't give him the finish. He would not give him the finish. He said, "I'll give you the finish." He goes, "I'll tell you when. Well, he's going on in the ring and all this other stuff. Andre didn't follow the script at all because Andre never did. All right.
Right.
And they were going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then finally, like, what is it, 35 minutes maybe, Andre just yells at him and says, "Drop me." And that's when he picked him up and he body slammed him, and that was the end of it. That's the only words Andre said to him, would "drop me," and that was it. But like Hogan was like petrified because he was like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know anything. So he didn't know he didn't work the old school way, and he didn't work the new school way. It was just Andre's way.
Right.
And that's the way Andre was. He just said, "No, I do what I want to do. Are you going to stop me?" And that's the one thing I got to say about him. He was very true to his own morals, his own cause, his own way of doing things. And you were not going to change his mind. Absolutely not. I dated Andre for 9 months, and there was no way. I've seen him do things to people. No.
I mean, and he was so immense that
Yeah.
What do you do? What can you do to him?
But and again, at the same token, he was one of the kindest men I have ever met in my life. He was very, very kind. And then, like I said, at one point, everything started to get to him. The pain was unreal. He suffered so much. He had so much pain. And then the drinking started, and everything went south after that, and the surgeries, and all that stuff. But it was very hard. We're going to do a story about Andre too at some point, but I just wanted you to know also, because we're still going to keep talking, but I didn't want you to think I was rude when I had my head down earlier, but I had just gotten a text from Bay. Bay's going to be on the show with us. He's got a couple of announcements for May 3rd.
Okay.
And he's on his way. So he's like, "Keep talking." I said, "Oh, sure, why not? I can keep talking." And you sound like you keep talking, so that's good.
Speaking of Bay, he was another one that I truly loved working for. Like when he was running Liberty All Star,
Okay.
just going into a show and knowing it's going to be run professionally. You know what I mean? And knowing that the guys you work with are all professionals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I did a lot, a good, at least a year and a half. Whenever he was open, I worked for him most of the time that he ran his shows. So wherever it was, you knew where you were doing. You knew, he gave me a belt they just made up all of a sudden. It's like the top rope podcast belt or something like that it was called.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's like, and I think I may have been the first champion for them. I'm like, okay, thank you. I
Oh,
appreciate
that's
that.
nice. Bay's
I
a
wasn't
great
a
guy.
promo guy until I got older and I couldn't bump as much. That's when I picked up the mic, and then I started, using the mic to get over with the crowd more. Because
Right, right.
I wasn't a promo guy with the gimmick before, But then after a certain point, I couldn't bump as much, so I would have to get the crowd going by picking up the mic and cutting a promo, or talking garbage to the crowd, getting them all riled up that way,
And they gave it back to you. I remember, and it might even be that one fan you had mentioned that always had the sign up, but would chant, Cujo has fleas.
Yeah.
And oh my God.
That's on the internet, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's somewhere on the Facebook land.
Is there anything that's not on the internet?
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that when I had all my bad days, the internet didn't exist.
I remember a few times that I would some people came regularly would know who I am. Mm-hmm. Once I even changed my clothes, and then I remember this one time this parent came up with their little girl and was like, "You're her favorite wrestler." I'm like, me? With all the barking and the chains and all that.
Oh,
yeah,
but that's okay.
Oh, thanks. And I gave her a little hug. You know what I mean? It's just like,
yeah, but doesn't that make your whole day though? Really?
It does, because it makes me feel like I touched someone. You know what I mean?
That's
somewhere that little girl is probably like 20 years old now. It's like, that Cujo was a good guy.
And
I didn't want to be a good guy. I was a heel, but
but she liked you, and she remembered that. And you know what? You made an impression on somebody's life. And little girl, if you're out there and you're watching this and you remember, contact us at 316 Carmela and give us your name, and we'll have you on the show with Cujo. We'll bring Cujo back again, and you can be on the show.
That would be such.
Or she can come May 3rd to the con and to the show, and we could have a little reunion there as well.
A little reunion.
Yeah.
There you go. So tell us about May 3rd. What are you going to be doing there May 3rd? Actually, you're going to just help out, or do you have plans made? I don't know what's
going on. When I spoke with Joel originally, I think I may have said it when we were all talking. I'll come in and do whatever you want. I don't want any money for it. I don't want anything. If you want me to work, I'll work. But
that's really nice.
Whatever you want to pay me, just donate it. I'm doing this just for the love of TWA. For you guys, for Joel, you know what I mean? Because you guys are like my family when I was younger. I was that nerd that was so into wrestling that I was just enamored by anything that I heard. You know what I mean? Even now, it's still my passion. I listen to all the podcasts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love the older ones that talk about the old days. Like a Dutch Mantel, and everybody hates Jim Cornette, but I love him. I think he's hilarious. I don't agree with everything he says, but
that's okay.
I love all the old stories. I love to hear how it was in the old days. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it isn't like it is now. You know what I mean?
No.
Back in those days, you really worked and you paid your dues. I feel like nobody pays their dues anymore.
No, they don't have to. And everybody makes a ton of money, and it's just not, the love isn't there.
Right.
It's a job, and
you ask them about, God forbid you ask them about an old wrestler from back in the 80s. They're like, who's that? I'm sorry, what? You don't know your history?
Yeah. And today, if you're lucky enough to see a wrestler walking away, then wow, I saw so-and-so, but I only saw his back, because, they don't hang out with the fans. They don't.
No.
I mean, even when we used to hang out at the Marriott and stuff before, it was so wonderful. But today, everything is about the dollar. Everything is about money. And you don't get, the wrestlers don't leave if you're in the back. The security, because I know where I work, My guys do security for the Cure Arena, okay,
Right.
and they told me a million times, all the fans have to leave. Nobody can be in the back when the cars start coming out. That to me is bullshit. I'm sorry. That's the way I see it. Those people pay your salary, okay? If
I
it
think
wasn't for the people,
I
go ahead.
personally think that the reason that happens this day and age is because you have so many of these guys who come with all these things to be signed. You know, they want to talk to you, but they want you to sign all their stuff so that then they can go and sell it on the internet. You know, it's like, and I think a lot of the boys, and that means the girls and the boys, they know that this is going on, and when they're just trying to get from one place to another in an airport or trying to get out of the arena or whatever, you know, it's just like that's why they have all these conventions now. You want something,
Pay
you
for it
pay
and
to
pay
go
for the
there,
news.
and
Yeah.
then if you can get them to sign, then or buy something and then resell, that's your business. But you know,
Yeah, but
you're
see, I don't. I'm going to be not be disrespectful, but I don't agree with that because I think that sometimes a wrestler can come out and say, hi, how are you? Can I shake your hand? Can I have a picture? I'm not signing all that stuff, but I will
right.
talk to you. And
Yeah,
they don't
yeah,
even do that. They really don't.
I
Guess
agree.
who just came on? Our buddy.
He
Our
got home
buddy
safe and sound.
Bebe. My Bebe's here. Hold on, here he comes. Bebe.
What's up?
What's
Hey there, buddy.
up?
Wow. How you
How are
doing,
all
honey?
the beautiful people here tonight?
I just put you over to
We're
the crowd
all.
here.
Yes.
Oh,
I
Wow.
don't know what you heard, but he was talking about your LAW days, and he was there and
yeah.
champion.
Now, did he tell the story? It's funny. I was thinking about this earlier. Did you tell the story of how I first met you?
No,
I
I
think
haven't.
so.
Okay. So I think it was the second show I ever promoted. It was in 1995. And Dave came to my show, and he came with Francine, and he was
Told you I
telling,
used to drive her everywhere.
yeah, and he was telling me, he's like, look, he's like, you weren't even booked on the show, but he said, I knew who he was because he was working as Dino Sendoff on TV. They were doing the Dino Sendoff and Joel Hartgood shoot
Right, right.
on
Yeah.
Joel and Dino, and I said, look, I did at that point. I'm like, I don't have a spot, but if something opens up, and something opened up, and Dave got to work, and he brought Francine with him, and he said, look, he said, Francine went all through the school, she went all through the training, and they won't use her. He's like, will you give her a shot? And I gave her first shot, her first show. She worked for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
she did pretty well. I mean, for herself before,
I think she did. I think she
Yeah.
did
She did.
pretty damn well.
Well,
She's
did.
actually going to be on NXT on this. What's it, Tuesday night at the arena? She'll be there.
I wanted
Oh,
to
she'll
I
be
say
there
saw
for
that. Yeah.
NXT?
I
Yes.
told them a quick story of when I started doing the CUJO after I left ECW, and you guys were running this show. I think it might have been in South Philly, somewhere. Anyway,
Okay.
so she was there that day. I think you guys had booked her with somebody else. Maybe Tommy was there, and
Oh yeah, down
dude,
off
I
South
drove her
Street.
everywhere when we first started. She didn't
She
ever
big
get on
timed
the
you.
driver's side. She only sat on the passenger side.
Right.
So I see her at the show. I'm like, oh, I haven't seen her in probably a year or two because at that point I was out of ECW for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, hey, what's up, Francine? How you doing? And she's like, oh, hi, and turned back to me. I'm like, that bitch.
I would
I
have
Oh,
was
tripped
like,
her.
how you gonna do me like that? You know what I mean?
I would have tripped her. I would have tripped her. I would have.
Well,
Oh.
it was Bay's show. I didn't want to put her out of work. You know what I mean?
I would have. I would have. Yep. Right, Jeannie?
Oh yeah.
I would have. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's bullshit. No.
She
I
probably
don't like
wouldn't
when people.
even know who I am now. After all these years. But it's okay.
It's not the
I don't
point.
care.
I don't like when people. I don't like when people treat me badly. I really don't. Sooner or later, I get my revenge. Trust me. It takes some time, but it comes. But that's not fair. It's not right that she did that. Like, who does she think she is? She thinks she better? No. See, I don't like that.
She was Francine,
Anyway. Well, guess what? I'm
Here's
Carmela.
Francine with the big fake boobs. So
I'm Carmela, and I had bigger boobs years ago. Mine just dropped a little. I mean, come on. But I'm
hey, you're
still
all
me.
natural,
I'm
girl.
Carmela
All
with
natural.
purple hair. How about that?
Yeah.
No.
Hey, mine
So,
dropped too. I feel your pain.
I got to lift mine with a what do you call that? A Hoyt kind of thing, And I just pack everything on and just in the morning. But Bay, you have some information for us.
Oh my! Do I?
Let's
I
hear
have the
it.
scoop. I got the dirt. I got.
Give us the tea.
All right, my cat is driving me crazy. I just
That's
walked
all
in
right.
the
Let your
door.
cat be on the podcast.
Aw.
Hi, Kitty.
All right, come here, Sam. Come here. Come here.
Misses you.
He don't
Oh,
know. He just wants food. That's all he cares about.
so what?
This cat eats. I mean, seriously, I've never seen or known of a cat in my entire life that it must be a chubby dovey cat because it doesn't stop eating. It's amazing.
Oh,
But okay, you're in the way. You're blocking my view. So, all right. So May 3rd, is truly what I feel is going to be the biggest wrestling event in Philadelphia in the year of 2025. And it's going to be and everybody, including you three people that were in that room this past weekend, know the emotions that are running with this. This is going to be not only an emotional day, an emotional night, it's also going to be truly a reunion of the world of the Squared Circle fan club, a reunion of the Tri State Wrestling Alliance, and a reunion of the wrestlers, the fans, everything across the whole board. So, keeping with nostalgia, and I keep saying this, keeping with nostalgia, we have our hotel booked and we are going to have an after party there. And there's the only place to do it. When I started teasing this a couple weeks ago, people right away were like, the Travel Lodge, the Travel Lodge. No, the Travel Lodge was ECW. We're going back to the true old school where the magic happened. What,
always.
what used to be known as the Philly Marriott that
Oh, yes.
everybody used to go to during the Square
Yes.
Circle fan club. They used to go to after Tri-State Wrestling Alliance shows. They used to go to after WWF shows, after NWA shows, WCW shows, and then early ECW shows. It's now known as the Doubletree, but we're going back to the old Philly Marriott. That will be the official hotel. I have a link. We're going to be sharing it out for discounted room rates for all the fans to come and hang out. And if you have your ticket stub to One and Done, you are admitted to the after party at the bar afterwards. It is just going to be us, the whole TWA One and Done crew. So come out, hang out afterwards, have a good time, relive the trip. What other way to end that day than back at the Philly Marriott? I can't
Oh
wait.
my God. Now, just to be clear, I want everybody to understand. If you only purchase the ticket to the WrestleCon, that does not get you into the
You have to have
after
the show
party.
ticket.
It's the
Correct.
show ticket. Don't throw it away after you get it.
No.
Keep it. Come to the show. You have to show your ticket, and you can't pass it around to other people.
Yeah, I don't want to have
your
to start
ticket.
scrolling through like
Yeah.
a thing on my phone to see that you were there. So yeah,
Yeah.
please bring what you have to bring. We're going to have a great time. The old Philly Marriott is now the DoubleTree. It's on Island Avenue, right before you go over to what's it, the Platte Bridge, right there. So yes, come on out. We're going to have a good time. Many memories were made in that
Yes.
building.
Oh,
Yep.
hell yes.
Yes.
Oh, my God. Memories. Oh, my God.
That was
Some
the.
people
I'll tell
know
you
that
what.
hotel like the back of their hand.
Oh yes, oh yes. I'll never forget my first time meeting Ric Flair. I'm in the bathroom. I'm at the urinal. I'm standing at the urinal, and I'm a person like, and maybe Dave, you can discuss this one. When I'm at a urinal, like I'm not like, "Beer," I'm like zone straight ahead.
Don't
Like
talk to me too.
yeah, I'm looking at the wall. Like I have to be in concentration, but I can feel this person is just like zoom, staring at me, and I'm just like, my eyes are like twiddling around, and I'm like scared to look. Finally, I look, and it's Ric Flair. He's like, "How you doing?" I'm like, "Oh my god!" Like, what do you do? And then like a half hour later, I hear Flair's up running the hallways naked. So
Naked.
Always,
Yeah.
always.
always,
He
I've
was
seen
always
that.
naked.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
from what I understand, and I don't know for sure, but from what I understand, the reason he could go into a urinal and not worry about looking around because he didn't have to concentrate. It basically had its own spot. So,
yeah, exactly,
it
exactly.
reached. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that. Yeah,
You heard?
I don't know
Is that
that
what you
for
heard?
sure. That's
You
what I
heard it
heard.
here first.
That's what I heard. Yes, I heard it.
So that's
Okay, what
announcement
else you
number
got?
one. I got another announcement.
Okie dokie.
Double header of announcements. We're going to announce another match for One and Done. And it's going to be, this is going to be interesting. We have two old, very, very close friends from the Tri-State Wrestling Alliance, old tag team partners are facing off. We have Michael the Boss Tartaglia, formerly known as Michael the Hitman Bruno, is taking on his mentor and his protege, Tony the Hitman Stetson. At 66 years
Wow.
of age, he's
Wow.
getting in the ring one final time. This is it. He requested this. He came to Joel and me and he said, I want Bruno's ass in a ring. He said, after what Michael did to the TWA, no. He said, I'm taking matters into my own hands. So we booked the match, and to make it a little more interesting, because Good Heart shows are all about gimmicks, we are going to surround the ring with 12 former Tri-State Wrestling Alliance stars. It is also going to be a lumberjack match to
Oh,
make
goodness.
sure Michael Bruno is not going to run away.
Oh my God. Oh, that's
Now,
awesome.
the question is, can he run away?
He gonna try.
He's going to
He's
try.
gonna
Look,
try.
we all know Mike Bruno. We all know
Yeah.
Tartaglia. If he
Yeah.
can run away, he's running away. We're not letting him.
Oh, wow.
We're going to stop it. We're going to stop it. So
Wow. Oh, that's awesome. That's going to be good. That is going to be good.
it's good. Yeah. So I mean, it's funny because
I almost feel sorry for him. Almost.
I mean,
Come on.
have you met Michael?
Come on, Jeannie.
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
How could you feel sorry for him?
I said almost. Almost.
Almost.
Not me.
Just because
Not me.
I know what Tony's going to do to him.
Oh.
That's
Oh.
where,
Me and Tony were discussing this over banana shots the other day.
I remember.
Woo.
Yeah, I couldn't drink one because I was driving.
Oh.
Yeah, so I had one for you. No.
There you go.
I had a tiny taste of it. No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't
And the
good.
worst
Wow.
part was after the first one, we were like, yeah, and then his pockets were filled with them. So he's like, let's do another one.
Oh my God. Well, I'll tell you, that would be worth the price of admission for a lot of people to see Tony Stetson beat up Mike Bruno.
Yeah.
Honestly, when this whole thing first started coming together, and me and Joel were sitting down and we were piecing things. When you look over the roster of the locker room of Tri-State guys, besides guys, I mean, Dave can still go, and we have guys from the Tartaglia Tri-State Wrestling Alliance that can naturally, because they're 10, 15 years younger, they can still get in the ring. So we were not expecting anybody, to want to do this, and we even booked the show, and we didn't have this. And then when Tony gave the call, I was like, "Are you shitting me?" Like, and then I talked to Tony, and he's like, "I want this." He said, "I started at 26 years old, and I am ending at 66. 40 years in the business, 40 years in the ring. So this is it. This is it." So we have 2 matches announced so far, and it's Going to be Breaker Morant's final match of his career, 25-year career, against Chris Wilde in a South Philly street fight. And now we have in a lumberjack match, Tony Stetson's last match of his career against Michael Bruno. So it's going to be.
And honestly, Bay, and I know Joel was worried as well. Like, oh my God, like you guys can't do this,
Yeah.
you know? And there was nothing that was going to stop Tony.
No.
You guys couldn't have stopped him. There's no way you could have stopped him from getting his hands on Mike. There's just there wasn't. Even if you didn't book the match, he was going to get him in the ring.
He was going to get him one way or another.
How does Mike feel about this whole situation?
Good question. Oh, I don't know. Oh,
what do you got to say about that?
So I spoke to Mike after Tony reached out, and he said, "Let's do it." He said it's because it's kind of crazy. Like the funny thing is, now when the whole Hitmen thing was going on, I was very green. I was still in wrestling school. I was in wrestling school the whole freaking tri-state time. But it's funny because there was naturally illusions that you thought. And I thought those guys were very close. But the reality is, like, I started learning as time went on, they really were not. Tony did not want to be in that tag team, and Joel forced that together. And even Michael Bruno, he really didn't want to be in the tag team either. He didn't, he used to come out with the hats and, so neither were truly happy. And it's kind of funny that 30 plus years later, they're going to settle their differences finally.
Well, it's funny. I never saw Mike Bruno as a hitman. I did see Tony Stetson be one. I saw a recent match. Joel was talking about it Saturday with Tony Stetson against Johnny Hotbody, and it was pretty wild. It was pretty wild, and I can still see Tony Stetson being a hitman. No offense, Bruno. I just don't see you being a hitman. I just don't. I don't. I'm sorry.
And you know what? I give Mike credit. Mike's in phenomenal shape. Again,
he looks great
for that original locker room. Mike's in probably the best shape out of all of us.
Well, he's really never stopped working at it either. And he's he's been doing all the right things. Sometimes I think that I should be doing those things too, but it's hard. It's really hard. You have to really be committed to doing what he does. I got to give him props for that, for being in good shape. I don't even know, how old is he, Mike?
I'm 54. I think he's maybe a year or two older than me.
All right. Well, I'm 67. I'm the oldest one in almost every room these days. But I gotta give him props for sticking with it and for being in very good shape. And hey, you never know, he might surprise everybody that night.
Absolutely.
You never know.
He's going to be doing juice shots before the show.
There you go. Yes.
Smoothies. There's smoothies. Yeah.
Fruity juice.
Juice. They are really good. They are really good.
I'll tell you what. I before I moved to Nashville, I was going over there and I was doing a lot of like juicing and stuff like that. And I was getting my stuff from him. I got to admit, his stuff's phenomenal.
It really is.
He's the only one who didn't eat the cooking that I made, because he was like, "Nah, I'm all right. Prior to that, somebody told me,
isn't he a vegan though? Like, I think he's vegan.
Yeah,
he is.
I think he is.
Prior to that, somebody told me that he said, "I ain't eating that shit," but because I was there and somebody asked him in front of me, he goes, "Nah, it's all right. I'm okay," because he knew I'd stick his head right in the sauce if he did.
Did he really say that? That son of a bitch.
Yeah.
He's such a heel.
Huh?
He's such a heel.
Yeah, he's always a heel. He's always in costume. I would say, always. He's always in kayfabe. Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, but we don't do kayfabe here, so this is cool. And again, I was telling Dave that this is why a lot of people, our fan base is starting to increase. Like I said this when we first started this. I'm not in competition with anybody. I'm not looking to be number one. I'm not looking for anything except to have people like the show. I just want to have a conversation. I just want to hear what people have to say. I just want to let the fans hear what it was like in the real wrestling days, what it was like, when there was no rehearsal and there was no, flashy crap and there was no big money and there was no dissing the fans and walking away and fans, can't get near you without paying tons of money. I don't think I ever heard, and this is the God's honest truth, Jeannie, you can attest to this either way, but I don't think I ever heard back in the day any wrestler, and that maybe I just didn't hear it, but I don't remember hearing it. Any wrestler saying a fan better never bother me in the airport. A fan better never bother me in public. I've never heard it until now. Now I hear on Facebook, on Instagram, if you see me in the airport, please don't bother me.
You know who used to do that back in the day?
Who?
Which is why I never liked him, because he was an asshole to a lot of the fans, including
let me see if she's going to say who I think. Go ahead.
Dusty Rhodes.
Oh yeah, all right.
Dusty Rhodes. He was nice to some, very few, but whenever we would see him at the Marriott or wherever, oh my, no, he would, and
no, you're right.
Which is why I love me a bad boy, because all the heels were so nice.
Yeah, but
all the baby faces were assholes.
Yeah,
because they thought themselves too good, and a lot of them did it. A lot of them did it.
I'm going to tell you a Dusty story. Dusty, the people from the WWE now do nothing but admire that man. I mean, he apparently
he was a fantastic booker and a fantastic worker and all that. But to the fans, he was an asshole. And
he was really good to the kids, to the people that were at the WWE and all that. But I remember one time, we know the old Dusty. We know the old Dusty, like we know the old Shawn Michaels. We know, And one time, a friend of ours sent him a bottle of champagne or wine on her, and instead of being nice, he's and accepting it, well, thank you. He told the waiter to bring it back to her because he knew who it was, and he said, "Tell her to stick it up her ass." And that was his, that was his remark. That was his gratitude for somebody being kind enough to send him a beverage that he probably would have drank the whole bottle if he'd have bought it. But, but then, like I said, see, don't get me started, because once my head starts turning and once I start getting a little pissed off, then I'm going to be nasty, and I don't want to do that. So anyway.
Let's not get you riled up, huh?
I know, man. Don't get me riled up, because I am not nice when I'm riled up.
I had an incident the other day, and I feel horrible about it. When I flew into Philly the other day, a guy sent me a message on Facebook and said, "Hey, can I meet you? Because I want to get something signed from you that I have, like the other W's that have signed, and I need you to sign it." I said, "Well, I don't even have a car. I have a friend picking me up from the airport." I said, "But where are you?" He said, "Center City." I said, "Well, I'll tell you what. My plane lands at this time. I'll let you know when my plane lands, and I'm heading right to the 2300 Arena to film a quick promo video." I said, "If you can meet me there, then I'll sign it for you, not a problem." He's like, "Perfect." I said, as soon as I land, I'll tell you when I'm leaving the airport, and I'll tell you when I get to the 2300 Arena." And I did that, and he never read any of my messages. Yeah, so I was like, "Oh, all right." So I waited for like 10, 15 minutes. I'm like, screw it. Like, I have my friend like waiting on me. I'm like, come on, let's go. I haven't heard from him. So I left, and we went to Delaware County, and we went to get lunch, and we were almost to our spot to get lunch, and he messages me that he was there. I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. Like, so I said to him, I said, look, to make it up to you, I feel hard, and I do. I feel generally horrible. I'm like, I'll give you a WrestleCon ticket, and I owe you on me. So please come. So
that was nice.
That is very nice.
Right?
What's that?
See, I said that was very nice.
Oh, thank you. I do, but I feel bad because the way I look at it, I got lucky and blessed, to be a Dudley. So the fact that 30-something years later, people give a shit or care. I try to, appease and go out of my way for people, but
that's just it. People don't forget. They don't forget. Okay. Yeah. Like, I can't tell you now how many emails we've gotten. Oh, Carmela, your old wrestling show was wonderful. I remember watching or listening to it, and then, blah, blah, blah. And as soon as we started this podcast, people jumped right on. They didn't forget.
Mhm.
Okay. But again, keep in mind too, that, I went to a lot of shows, and I used to go to shows all the time until I had my back surgery. And I met up with a lot of people over the years. Like, again, I was always a part of it some way or another. But, I love that. I love when people acknowledge. Like, there's this one friend of mine who's a fan who just sent me that picture I put on Facebook of my mother when she was Ringside Rosie.
That was awesome.
Oh my God, that made me cry when I saw it. My
Oh,
mother.
I got to see this.
Yeah, it's on my podcast, my Facebook page. My mom used to be called Ringside Rosie. Bill Cardell called her that. He gave her that name, if you remember the name Bill Cardell. And it's a picture, a black and white picture where Bruno's in the corner signing autographs, and there's a whole bunch of people around, because at that time you were allowed to run up to the ring, and they're all holding on to the ropes. And in the very, very little corner on the bottom is this little dark-haired lady holding on to the ropes, like excited. That's my mom. Yeah, that's Ringside Rosie, and I'm telling you, man, there's nothing like it. When people remember you and people want to be a part of what you're doing, there's nothing like it in the world, and that's the truth. But Dave, I love hearing your stories on my show. I love hearing your stories. I would love to have you come back again.
I have a lot more. I mean, there's many stories.
Oh, absolutely. But save some, because unfortunately I work tomorrow, and when you're my age and you're very, 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 very old, you tend to go to bed at a reasonable hour. I'm going to be like this pretty soon. But Bay, it was a pleasure. I'm glad we waited
Thank
for you.
you, guys.
I
Love you guys.
never would have done it without, I would never have closed up the show without you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you for the updates. Thank you for everything. Dave, thank you for everything.
Thank you.
We want to tell everybody to please remember to buy your tickets. The tickets are at www.2300arena.com. Bay, you're going to put out after we're going to drop this on Saturday.
Mhm.
When we drop it and we advertise it, maybe you can send out the link.
The link, yep.
To the petition. Don't forget, how many do we have now? I know we have over 600 now.
Yeah, we actually got more. I
Cool.
want to say, for some reason, I can't find my
last count I had was 620, but I think it went up from there.
It went up. Yeah, we got. Let me refresh, and 631.
Wow.
Nice.
Hey, that's great. That is really great. And any Rasslin Radio people who signed it, I am so grateful. And I'm asking you to please get a friend, a family member, a spouse, a child, anybody to sign it so we can have the banner, as Bay says, dropped. We've been saying raised, but it's going to be dropped once it is raised. Bay, thank you so much for doing all of this. 99 was you. And I think that's awesome. And God bless you for it.
Thank you.
I love you dearly. I really do. You're a wonderful man.
Ditto.
And you're very kind and you're very sweet. And I'm sorry I never met you sooner. I really am. I'm sorry that I didn't know you sooner.
You don't understand how I'm like, where the fuck was I when everything was going on?
I don't know.
I was like in the dark. I don't know.
But you know what? We're here now. And that's all that matters, and that we're together, and it's going to be great, and everybody's going to have a good time.
Absolutely.
Dave, again, Mr. CUJO, the Hellhound.
Yes.
Okay, the bad guy. Woo!
Thank you for having me. It's been a
Love this
blast.
guy.
Absolutely. And we definitely want you to come back with. Definitely want you back for the Larry tribute,
awesome.
If you wouldn't
mind.
Yeah, you know what? We may even do 2 tributes, because Jeannie and I were talking, and I know that there's so many people who were close to Larry, and I can only fill 10 spots here, and that includes Jeannie and myself. So I can only put 8 people on, and I know there's probably way more than 8 people who would like to give a tribute to Larry. So if we have to, we'll do 2. I don't have a problem with that, but we'll get on it. Once we have up until the end of the year, we're pretty much booked. But starting January, we're going to start pushing a lot more of the May 3rd show. And we're going to have some more people from the TWA on. And then we're going to start spanning out in between. And we're going to start bringing back some of the people that we have on our podcast, and some of the repeats and stuff like that. And then we're going to do some of our tributes. We want to do a tribute to Larry, want to do a tribute to Bruno Sammartino, want to do a tribute to Andre. So we're going to do all that too in the months to come. But hopefully you guys will watch. Hopefully you guys will keep watching the podcast, and hopefully you guys will spread the news. And also, if you can, share it on your page. If you can, tell your friends about it. But this was an awesome show, an awesome night. And again, I can't thank you guys enough.
It's been a pleasure.
You. So I'm going to take you guys off the screen, and Jeannie and I are going to close out. Love you so much.
Love you guys.
Good night. Have a
bye.
See you soon.
Take care. Okay, have a great night. Faye, have a good night. Love you to death. Oh, he left. Okay, love him to death. Anyway, Jeannie, great show. As usual, my buddy, my pal. We're going to do so much more of this, and we're going to do so many incredible shows. Again, this will drop Saturday after I come home from work. And, we'll just get next week. Next week, we have my friend Jimmy Schwartz coming on the show.
Yes. I just haven't looked down at my schedule, my calendar.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was a very good friend of what's his name? Quixote? What's his first name? Jim Bob?
I think that's what you said. I don't know. I never met him.
Quixote. He was a referee in WWF, whatever. They really got rid of him in a bad way, by the way. But anyway, Jimmy used to put the ring together. So I'm sure he's going to have some really powerful stories. I can't wait to see him too. So we're going to do a little bit of fan base stuff, a little bit of May 3rd stuff, a little bit of our own stuff, and we're just going to bombard it with whatever we can. So be in touch, everybody. We love you to death. Jeannie, I love you. And I love you most. We're out.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.